Hello, everybody, and this is Unhinged WWE edition here on the Outlaw Sports Network. So it's been a while since we've done strictly a WWE show, so I figured I'd bring it to you. It's just me, Randall Beasley, today. Other people are out doing other things. I don't have no guests, so it's just me. So we got three topics that we're going to talk about with the WWE today. And I think it's going to be a great show. So let's just jump right in. So the first topic here is, why has Monday Night Raw been so bad to watch here lately? I'm going to be completely honest. When it comes to WWE, since the NHL playoffs started, I have not watched a full episode since, I would say, the beginning of June. So it's been a couple months. And with that said, the parts that I have seen have just been cringy. I mean, I've kept up with the pay-per-view, so I know a little bit of what's going on. But I just feel the roster there is just being left out to dry. I think they're writing there, and ultimately they're really suffering from not having the top champion of the brand on TV every week. And it's hard to write a story without that guy and to give a meaningful story. And I feel the storylines that are being presented have no clear, defined end to them. So let's just go through a little bit of what's going on Raw. So obviously I like the decision to make Dolph champion. But that really just leaves Seth in no man's land right now. And Seth is definitely, I believe, the top star of Raw, in my opinion. And so Seth really has nothing going on for him. You got guys like Finn Balor that really has nothing going on for him. And they've really just destroyed Finn Balor's credibility since moving him to the main roster. Because remember him in NXT, he was just this great character who had a backstory, and you understand everything that was going on with them, and then you move into the main roster, and they didn't use the demon gimmick, and when they did use it, it was using a silly gimmick with Bray Wyatt, and then, well, that never got put through fruition because Bray got sick, and so they had to scrap that match, and it just left Finn, and then, injuries and stuff as well, and so that left Finn out in the middle of nowhere. You got of course, Brock Lesnar's not there, and so you're trying to tell a main event story of guys like Lashley and Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman and guys like this who are trying to get into this picture of fighting Brock Lesnar, but they have to draw those out so long because Brock Lesnar doesn't fight every month. It'd be one of those things where, like, if Brock Lesnar, only fought at pay-per-views and never showed up, but he showed up at every pay-per-view, it'd be okay. But when he shows up 4 times a year, and it really draws these stories out to where, okay, then we got to try to write a 3-month-long story to get to someone to fight Brock Lesnar. But, and we'll talk about this later in the show because we're going to talk about Roman Reigns more specifically. And I'll mention this again, but when you talk about Brock Lesnar, there's really only 3 guys on Raw who technically speaking, and to make the most logical sense in a story, only 3 people on the Raw roster, I would say it's at 4, that could fight Brock Lesnar and look legit and logical to actually defeat him. And those 3 or 4 are Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. Those storyline wise, logically, you can't put someone like a Seth Rollins to go out and beat Brock Lesnar in a one-on-one match where Seth Rollins doesn't have to cash in. And I get, and we'll talk about this again, when we end the show, because Roman Reigns, we're going to talk about him in more detail and some things going on with Roman Reigns and stuff. But I don't see how you can't put someone like Seth against Brock Lesnar and expect it to be legit that he can actually win, because Brock Lesnar has been built up. And so if we look at Raw and how they built Brock Lesnar, how have we got to this point to where it has to be Roman Reigns? I mean, we'll cover Roman Reigns right now because there's not much. It really fits into why Raw is so bad. You get to this point and it goes all the way back to when they brought Goldberg back. So I just want to let y'all know I never was in support of them bringing Goldberg back. I feel bringing back these nostalgia acts cheapens the product because it takes airtime away from people on the main roster who are full-time, who aren't nostalgia acts, who are really talented people like a Finn Balor or a Dean Ambrose or something like that. Excuse me. And I think bringing back these nostalgia acts, and ultimately, so the WWE, or excuse me, the WCW marks that we're all happy that, oh, Goldberg's back. We get Goldberg back. Guys, you're part of the problem here. I'm going to say, and you're going to hate me for it, but y'all are part of the problem because you supported them bringing Goldberg back, knowing with about 1,000% certainty, I'm going to say this, knowing bringing Goldberg back was going to lead to a title run. It's the only way Goldberg was going to come back if it led to a title run. And who was his big foe? Brock Lesnar. Y'all, bringing Goldberg back was just the tool and the method WWE used to lead to giving Brock Lesnar. It was that range. Okay, so we gave it to Finn, and then he got hurt, and so Kevin Owens got it. And Kevin Owens got it. Well, at that time, Goldberg finally, arrived back on the scene. This was late 2016. And I was at the WrestleMania where Brock won the title in Orlando at 33. But, October, November, December of 2016, late 2016, it's almost been 2 years. It's kind of actually crazy to say that, but about 2 years ago when Goldberg rushed onto the scene and he was making these things and he showed up at I think his first pay-per-view was Survivor Series, and he destroyed Brock Lesnar in like 5 seconds, right? And all these fans are like, oh my God, Brock Goldberg, he's back. 5 seconds, he beat Brock Lesnar. And so what happened was, and we got to understand the storyline and why Brock Lesnar's been built the way he is and why it has to be Roman Reigns. And so the reason I want to talk about Roman Reigns is because it's become more recently, after 33, he got the most, he had heat, natural earned heat. People literally hated Roman Reigns because he beat Undertaker in the main event of WrestleMania 33 and was assumably the one who was going to retire The Undertaker. Now, of course, he didn't because Undertaker came back, but we all thought he retired The Undertaker and we didn't want him to win, right? And so I necessarily didn't hate Roman Reigns. I'm going to be completely honest. I was in the chance because, that's what you do when you join the crowd, and right? So the crowd was cheering, F you Roman, we want Cena. Now, he got natural heat. And so, he sort of, loses some of that steam. He still has people who hate him. You got people who love him. You got people who hate him. He is another John Cena. But everyone now is coming out of the picture now that he's back into the main event scene again. And so, after Mania 34, when he lost to Brock, no one really talked about him. He was in this feud, and really is where him and Lashley started to pick up. And so now it's come out of the scenes now that we're coming into SummerSlam, and everyone's hating Roman Reigns again because he's in the main event picture. It's like the 6th time he's faced Brock Lesnar. And more than likely, it's going to be the main event of the show, which, is trying to be painted as the biggest title in the company. We all know it's not. It's still the WWE title, which Styles has. But we gotta look at how it came to, again, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. You gotta look at the storyline here. You gotta go all the way back, like I said, to late 2016 when Goldberg rushed onto the scene. Everyone knew coming into when Goldberg rushed on the scene that this was going to lead in a Universal title run. Only way they would have brought Goldberg back. And if Vince wanted this nostalgia act, it was going to sell seats and tickets to WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, again, going to, redo the WrestleMania match from the last time when it completely flopped. And so you just had to pick the right moment. And so Survivor Series, Owens was still the champion, and he was beginning this feud with Jericho, or getting ready to do the feud with Jericho late 2016. And then Jericho ends up, I think, winning the United States title at this time. And the Festival of Friendship happens at this time, which leads to them two breaking up. And then again, the Owens-Jericho feud in which Owens wins. And then that was at Royal Rumble. And at Royal Rumble, Lesnar in the Royal Rumble match, Goldberg and Undertaker, all in this match. It was supposed to be a big Royal Rumble. Of course, no one cared about it. Randy Orton ended up winning that match to face Bray Wyatt. Ultimately, no one really cared about the Royal Rumble match. But it set up important storylines like, Goldberg facing Brock Lesnar again for the third match, their sort of rubber match, WrestleMania, but this time. And at the time when it was booked in January at Royal Rumble, it wasn't a title match. But in comes Fastlane in February, 1 month before WrestleMania. You're building up. You're on the Fastlane to WrestleMania, the road to WrestleMania starting. And, at Fastlane, Kevin Owens, Goldberg for the title. Jericho interrupts the match before the bell rang. Goldberg sort of takes that distraction in about 5 seconds, beats Kevin Owens, becomes Universal Champion. And ladies and gentlemen, now your match between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar is for the Universal title. We all knew Brock was going to win this match. It was the rubber match. Goldberg's contract was getting ready to end. We all knew Brock was going to win the title. All right, so now fast forward to 2017. You had about 5 people on Raw who was in the picture to maybe be the next person who we all thought was going to culminate at 34. And those 5 people were Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. And then you had Bray Wyatt, who was just sort of stuck out there to dry after losing his title to Randy Orton. And so you have these 5 guys, and they're going through it because Brock wasn't going to show up again till I think it was a SummerSlam of last year when Brock showed up again. And so you had the Fatal 5-Way and all these matches. And ultimately, Samoa Joe had his chance, Braun Strowman had his chance, Seth Rollins had his chance, and every one of these chances was just going to revamp Brock Lesnar's status, because the storyline was now we have him as champion. Now we got to build him up to be this supreme, unbeatable beast to because that's his character. So now we got to book him, and so he's gonna beat Braun Strowman clean. He's gonna beat Samoa Joe clean. He's gonna beat Seth Rollins and Finn Balor clean, which really doesn't build his momentum because they're smaller guys, and so I think that's why they really scrapped those ideas. But the fact he beat Samoa Joe and he beat Braun Strowman, two guys who were bigger. Braun Strowman was also being booked as being unbeatable, but he lost to Brock Lesnar. And so you go through summer of 2017 and really the rest of 2017 thinking, okay, we all know it's going to end with Roman Reigns. And so we get to WrestleMania this year and, okay, Roman Reigns is going to win the belt. Well, he doesn't. And going into the match, he was like, yeah, he's definitely going to win the belt because Brock's contract ends around the same time. But then rumors were saying that Brock re-signed a short-length contract, which ends at the end of August. Is what I heard rumors say, that his contract he re-signed in April ends at the end of August. And so here we are now, and Braun Strowman's in his own little feud with Kevin Owens, with the Money in the Bank contract on the line. So, of course, Braun's not going to be the guy to face him. And Braun has lost in the past. Granted, Roman Reigns has lost in the past to Brock Lesnar. But Roman Reigns he's gone through barriers. He's gone through Lashley, who Lashley beat him. So he got his revenge on Lashley. So now it's Brock. And then there's Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is the most logical choice in this situation. So do I like the match? No. I think people are going to shit on the match either way, if it was Lesnar and Reigns or Lesnar and Lashley. Lesnar matches are not fun to watch. And it's not because he's facing Roman Reigns. It's because Brock Lesnar is in the match. Brock Lesnar is not an entertainment factor. What Brock Lesnar is he's someone who sells tickets, and so that's why Vince gave him the title. But this goes all the way back to when Goldberg came back, because this storyline culminated and really began when Goldberg came back. It's the only reason Brock is still champion. So you go all the way back. You go all the way back to late 2016 when the WCW marks were flipping out because Goldberg's back. That's where this problem started. It's not a Roman Reigns problem. It's the fact that Vince McMahon has this want to sell tickets, and he does so by bringing back nostalgia acts. Brings back Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is a great performer. He doesn't need to come back every year, though. He brings back Rey Mysterio at the Royal Rumble. We don't need Rey Mysterio. He brings back Goldberg. We didn't need Goldberg. In fact, that nostalgia act took away a lot of attention of other matches that were going on at that WrestleMania. If you go back to WrestleMania 33, look at the matches that were on the pre-show. You had the Cruiserweight Championship match, Neville versus Austin Aries, which was, no one remembers that match because it was a pre-show match. I didn't watch it in the stadium. I was too busy getting into my seat and waiting in line for an hour and a half to try to get a drink that we didn't get because the people at Camping World Stadium were slow at processing orders. But you know, we go around that. Definitely match of the pre-show. Could have been match of the night if it was on the main card, but no, we had to put Brock Lesnar and Goldberg on the card, knowing Brock Lesnar was going to win the title. These nostalgia acts are what's killing WWE, is bringing back these nostalgia acts from WCW. Look, good for you if you loved it. If you were a mark who marked out because Goldberg came back, good for you. Y'all go back 2 years ago. I did not like Goldberg coming back. I saw no point in it. It took away time from current roster stars. And so with that said, all these people who come here and they hate on Roman Reigns and they blame Roman Reigns for why this match is going to blow really are just marks who don't want to actually blame the real problem, because the real problem is Brock Lesnar holding this title hostage and really sucking the life out of Raw. So why is Raw so bad? Because Brock Lesnar is Universal Champion. That's my opinion. Y'all can fight me on it, try to change my mind. My opinion is Raw is so bad because Brock Lesnar is champion. We could talk about the tag team division and that all the great tag teams are really on SmackDown, and that's another problem. But Raw seems like a drag because you're building out these long stories to try to lead to the Universal title that have to last 4 months, and they can barely write 4 weeks of programming. No TV show writes 4 months of programming at one time. There's a reason why big TV shows do their summer filming and sort of take a break at the or do their fall when the season starts. They go from fall through winter, and they do about 3 months of programming, but they write all summer, and it's a little bit more easy to develop when you don't have to worry about characters leaving and all these things. That's another thing, WWE using their actual talent in their movies. While it's fun to watch The Miz or Dolph Ziggler or someone like that, when you have to get Miz to take 6 months off the film, and you have to cut a story short where you could have drawn it out, it messes up your programming as well on your TV. And so Raw is bad because Brock Lesnar is only there 4 times a year. You could fix the tag team division by changing some tag teams around, calling some tag teams up, and ultimately the B team's entertaining, in my opinion. McIntyre and Ziggler, I don't think we're ever going to get the tag team titles. This was more just to boost McIntyre. I still think he turns on Ziggler, which is what needs to happen, but draw it out a little bit. And then the IC, again, that's Ziggler's title, the IC title picture. I mean, you got guys like Elias, which I don't like the Elias act. I don't like the Rusev act on SmackDown either. I think they're the same thing. It's a catchphrase, a gimmick. I don't really like gimmicked wrestlers. So Dolph Ziggler to me isn't. If you can look at a character, if you look at Rusev and say Rusev is only Rusev because of his gimmick. Rusev is only where Rusev is because of his gimmick. He did because of his gimmicks. And so when you look at the person, so when I look at Dolph Ziggler, when I look at Nick Namath as the person, that's Dolph Ziggler's real name for those who don't know. When I look at Nick Namath and I look at him, I can honestly 100% believe he is the guy he says he is when he's portraying Dolph Ziggler. It doesn't act like a gimmick to me. I can't see that with Rusev because Rusev's out there breaking kayfabe. And that's another problem with WWE is kayfabe is so often broken now in WWE because of the reality TV shows and Rusev showing up at Nashville Predators games with Lana and Lana speaking in English outside of the WWE cameras, acting as CJ Perry. We never saw that in the 90s. We never saw that when I was growing up watching wrestling. And so that's why the product sort of doesn't make any sense anymore because when it's not believable that the character is the person. So why did Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock generate so much hatred when they were heels? Why did Stone Cold generate so much? Well, he was more of a face. Why did Vince McMahon? Let's go with Vince McMahon. In the 90s was probably one of the greatest heels in the company in terms of natural heat. Why did we hate Vince McMahon? Because he seemed like the dick boss that we had, and Stone Cold stood up to him. He was us. That's why Stone Cold was so loved. But Stone Cold wouldn't do that to Vince McMahon in real life. That we knew it was a story, but it felt real because kayfabe wasn't broken. Kayfabe is broken. It doesn't exist no more. At least in WWE. And so when you try to paint and because Vince McMahon I don't think wants to get rid of a face has to face a heel type storylines, but he has to, because if he did just that and faces so we can get a Seth Rollins versus a Finn Balor or a Finn Balor versus an AJ Styles, we'll get star quality programming. But that's why I also think AJ versus Shinsuke's feud didn't work. Because why was Shinsuke so loved? Shinsuke's an okay heel. But Shinsuke Nakamura was so much better, so much more loved, so much more of a superstar on the roster as a face. And so you turned it so he could so he can go against face AJ Styles. So now you turned him heel, and now I necessarily don't care about him. I really never cared about him in the first place. But kayfabe is broken, so you don't have to have your standard heels and faces, right? Vince McMahon needs to understand that. You don't need to have the heels versus faces anymore. So we're gonna end with this last topic. We've talked Roman Reigns. We've talked why Raw is so bad. They sort of connect. Why is Raw so bad? It is Roman Reigns. A lot of people want to blame Roman Reigns for why Raw is so bad right now. No, not at all. The Raw is so bad because one, poor booking. Two, Brock Lesnar is the Universal Champion. You can only do so much when he appears 4 times a year, and you got to build this story for 4 or 5 months just to lead to a match against Brock Lesnar. And so you got to try to make his number one contender a worthy opponent against a guy that you've built since late 2016, early 2017 as unbeatable, and for the last year and a half hasn't lost. And so you can't have a Seth Rollins who just lost to Dolph Ziggler. And to the smart marks out there, Seth Rollins can't go logically, to you guys, using your own logic. Y'all don't like Dolph Ziggler. Most smart marks out there, smarks, don't like Dolph Ziggler. They don't believe Dolph Ziggler should ever be in the world title picture. To y'all people who don't want Roman Reigns, add a Dolph Ziggler, or excuse me, add a Seth Rollins, or add a Finn Balor, or add someone else other than Roman Reigns. If we're using your logic, and Dolph Ziggler should not be in the world title picture, but he just beat Seth Rollins. Therefore, he's storyline-wise, he beat the guy you want to face, Brock Lesnar. But the guy who should be in the world title picture beat the guy who you want in the title picture. Y'all don't make no sense. You got to think logically when you're writing these stories. So if Dolph Ziggler beat Seth Rollins doesn't have that momentum to go up against this unbeatable guy and Brock Lesnar. But Roman Reigns does. Bobby Lashley did. Those are the only 2 guys in the situation. And then all the other, at least we got Braun Strowman. How do we know Braun Strowman's a tested champion? That Braun Strowman would actually make the title more relevant than Brock Lesnar. The only reason he's going to be more relevant than Brock Lesnar is because Brock Lesnar didn't show up. Braun Strowman wins. So why is Raw so bad? It's simply because the title is on Brock Lesnar. Get the title off of Brock Lesnar, Raw will probably start picking up. And I think that happens at SummerSlam. It'll go to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns will win this title. With that said, we're going to end the show with one final discussion. Excuse me. And that is on Raw. This past Monday, Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon, Triple H stood in the middle of the ring and announced that for the first time ever in October, live from Long Island, New York, they're going to do their first ever women's only pay-per-view, and it's going to be called Evolution. Now, first off, you got 2 different parties here. You got the people who really love the idea. You got people who really hate the idea. The people who hate the ideas sort of belief is, it's too late. You've waited too long to push this woman's evolution. You've waited, and you're about 10 years behind. 10 years ago, when you were doing bikini contests and bra and panties matches, while indie stars and other companies were pushing their women to wrestle, and now you're late, so now you're trying to make up for lost time, and we don't like this idea. And then you got the people who love it because, yes, finally WWE women are going to get the respect that they want. Here is my thought. I'm glad they're doing it. I believe women's wrestling is one of the most entertaining, especially with the I'm still in that minor part. Especially with the women's superstars that WWE has on their roster, either signed from outside of the company or grown products. Like Sasha Banks is a grown product. Bayley's a grown product. Becky Lynch, they signed out, but really made her name in the WWE. Natalya, you got Asuka, who they signed from Japan. You got Mickie James. You got Alexa Bliss, who is a homegrown product. You got Naomi and the Iconics with Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. You got so many great women on this roster who could put on great matches. You got Charlotte, who's probably going to come back here next when her injury's over. I forgot what her injury was, but she's coming back. And so this is a great idea. It's a great pay-per-view. that I would be very interested to see the card of. Now, here's my fear. The WWE is going to use this again as a nostalgia act. I've already told you I hate nostalgia acts. I don't. And they've posted a couple hours ago, I actually think, on Instagram, what all former WWE women's superstar would you like to see debut or re-debut at Evolution? So they listed all these people, and if that's all this is going to be, is Vince bringing back old talent to use them right this time, I'm not for this idea. What I want to see is the current roster of women that you have, which is the future of your brand, go at it. I want to see the four horsewomen of the WWE versus the four horsemen women of the UFC, because they're all in the WWE now. They're all the four horsewomen. You got of course, Shayna Baszler in NXT. You got Ronda on the main roster. Jessamine Duke, I think is her name, just debuted at a NXT live home show. And not Jessamine Duke, Marina Shafir, excuse me, just debuted. Jessamine Duke is rumored to have been signed and will debut here in the future with NXT. So you got all four of them. You got the four horsewomen of NXT or of WWE. I want to see that match. It's going to happen eventually. Let's do it at the show. But, you know, the bringing Caitlyn back for the Mae Young Classic, I really like that idea. I hope she doesn't go by Caitlyn. I hope she goes by her real name and her independent name she used for a little bit before she quit wrestling the first time, Celeste Bonin. Probably won't. Probably be Caitlyn again. You got Toni Storm coming back from the Mae Young Classic. You got Io Shirai. I think it's how you pronounce her name. I'm not big on the Japanese superstars. I don't like the strong style, to be completely honest. But but with that said, we know the Mae Young Classic's going to end. The final's going to be at this pay-per-view. You're going to have both titles on the line. You know we're going to have some nostalgia acts. If it's a good match, I'll cheer for it. But I don't want this whole thing just to be, oh, we're bringing back former women superstars just so we can sort of make them feel like we used them right. So it'd be cool if someone like a Kelly came back, or if she wanted to wrestle, or a Trish Stratus, because I believe Trish could still wrestle, or bring back like a Tori Wilson if she still wants to wrestle. Though Tori's in her 50s now, she still looks good for her 50s. But I would love to see like an NXT versus a main roster, or like a three. So you got NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. And what I would love to do is have like a tag team match where you take like two people from each brand and put them together and form a tag team to see which brand is more superior. And so, to me, the obvious choices for Raw would be Sasha and Bayley. Iconics for SmackDown. NXT is a little bit tougher, but you could do Marina Shafir and Shayna Baszler. You could do I know Rhea Ripley. She's going to be in the Mae Young Classic, but she'll probably be eliminated before Evolution. But Rhea Ripley and what's her name, Reina Gonzalez are forming a little thing in NXT live shows where they tag together. So, you know, I would love to see something like that. But if this is just going to be one of those like veterans versus current superstars or something like this, I'm not all for it. If it's nostalgia, I get it. Something y'all are going to mark out. But I'm just going to sit there and I want to see our current superstars being used, not these nostalgia acts coming back. With that said, I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view. It's a great opportunity for them to show what the women of WWE can do. I'm hoping Toni Storm wins the Mae Young Classic. I'm hoping by this point, Carmella is not on it. I'm hoping Carmella. I love Carmella, but I don't think she's a great champion. I think she's a great mid-card person. Bringing back James Ellsworth to me was just retarded. But I think Carmella actually loses the title, and Long Island is where she's from. And WWE has a lot of history of having people lose their title in their hometowns. But with that said, I think it's a B-rated event. I really do. So we've talked about a lot of things. Leave your comments in the video. Tell me how you feel about it. Yeah. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching Unhinged here on the OSN Outlaw Sports Network. I'm Randall Beatley. Until next time, again, be sure to check in on this page sometime next week when me and Cody cover the Big Ten football preview. With that said, I'm leaving. Y'all have a great rest of your Saturday. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you enjoyed the show.